Hey, get over here.
It's time to bring some American energy to this shift episode.
Whew. All right, now I feel good. Guys, a lot went down this week. I'm filming this episode on Monday, right after the Super Bowl, so there may even be more that's happened. I know the Olympics is still going on, but it's enough for a whole episode, so that's what we're gonna do right now. Buckle in. This is going to be an American episode. It's not even 4th of July, but we're bringing that energy. Here we go. I'm Gavin Waples, and you are part of the shift. So like I said, lots going on this week. I'm starting with the Olympics because this is just ridiculous. As you guys may know, the Winter Olympics is going on right now, and the United States sent like 245 athletes to the Olympics, and tons of other nations from around the world sent their athletes as well to all compete together to see who is the best at these winter sports. Normally, and how it used to be, the Olympics, it used to be a time where all these nations would put the best of their best forward and compete it out to see which nation was the best, who was going to bring home the gold. And lately, over the last several years, it has just degraded into what we're going to talk about today. Now, like I said, the Olympics is still just barely going on, so the fact that I already have an episode half dedicated to just what happened at the Olympics is kind of insane. Even before we get into the events of the Olympics and the things that you guys are probably expecting I'm going to talk about, we've got to talk about the opening day. Because on the first day of the Olympics, all the athletes get there, they parade them around, they show them off to the world, and they have a special ceremony and they light the torch. And there was a whole fiasco a while ago on the last ceremony about having a bunch of these trans individuals that made a display that looked like it was mocking the Last Supper. The leftists said it was actually imitating this painting, which was of the Feast of Diocletian or something like that, but it was made by a Dutch artist that was making a play on the Last Supper. So regardless, it was a bad thing. And you'd think after all that and all the success we've made combating woke over these last several years that this year would be fine at the Olympics. But no, once again, devil shows his ugly head. In this case, basically literally. They had some performances and some displays and some speeches and blah, 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 and it was all boring. But whatever, there's nothing political or anti-Christian about that, so whatever. But trouble came when the final performance came up that led into lighting the torch. And when they lit the torch, they lit it into this bundle that expanded into a ball, which I guess was supposed to represent the sun. But at the center of this sun, coincidentally, formed a pentagram with the bracings. Now, I'm not the type of person to see a devil in everything. I'm not the guy who's going to be adding up all the team's numbers and dividing them by 3 to see if we get 666 or anything like that. But honestly, I could not see it. It's literally glowing red right there in your face. Whatever. The Olympic conglomerate is a devil worshiper. So what? So are most people these days. Why does that deserve an episode? Well, it wouldn't, but what truly made me outraged this year wasn't even the Olympic officials or their program or whatever themselves. It was our own athletes. Because we sent these athletes to the Olympics to represent our country and to be the best that they could be for the sake of our nation. But unfortunately, when they got there, they seemed less inclined to represent America and more inclined to represent their own selfish ambitions and desires and to push their own specific political agenda. So far, 2 skiers by the names of Chris Lillis and Hunter Hess have already made statements declaring their basic distaste for America. The latter one, Hunter Hess, even going on to say, it brings up mixed emotions to represent the United States right now, I think. It's a little hard. There's obviously a lot going on that I'm not the biggest fan of, and I think a lot of people aren't. I think for me, it's more I'm representing my friends and family back home, the people that represented it before me, and all the things that I believe are good about the US. If it aligns with my moral values, I feel I'm representing it. Just because I'm wearing the flag doesn't mean I represent everything that's going on in the US. I just kind of want to do it for my friends and family and the people that support me getting here. Even reading that statement makes my stomach just want to... You basically tell the press, I'm just here to glorify myself and maybe thank my friends and family that got me here.
So he basically sat down, he's like, first of all, I am amazing.
I mean, it's so twisted and selfish. It's kind of appalling to see. The fact that an American, after being given an express honor to be put forward at the Olympics to represent our country and the best that we have to offer, then goes and immediately trashes it. And the level of dishonor you have to do that to the country that backs you, it's astonishing in the worst way. Now, I didn't watch the skiers event, but I did watch the figure skating event, where another controversy sparked up from yet another of our own American athletes. A skater by the name of Amber Glenn also made statements to the press, basically saying how much she doesn't appreciate the country or its current government, and how they've made it a hard time for her gay plus community. That's right, we got another one. And this one especially annoyed me too. I actually got to watch this figure skating event and all the athletes when they competed. If my memory serves me correct, it went Georgia, Japan, America, and then the other ones that I can't quite remember, as far as the women's event goes. And I remember watching this event, and the Georgian was fine. It was just like, okay, that was another country. And then the Japanese athlete comes up, and apparently this was going to be her final Olympic appearance. And the whole time you're watching her skate beautifully, by the way, incredibly done. And you're hearing the announcers talking about what an incredible person she is. And you're seeing her perform these events beautifully. She's executing them flawlessly. She gets done and she's smiling and she's celebrating and she's just emotional because she just poured her heart out at this final performance. And then it shows her results and she got like 20 points over the previous person and is sitting in first place. And she's ecstatic and she's happy and she's, celebrating with her teammates and all this stuff. You can see the pride in her country, in her team, and in her performance there. And then comes the American athlete. And me and my family, we're ready to root for USA. We're like, let's do well. And she's looking a little nervous. Okay, come on, let's get it together. We're rooting for this chick. And she goes out, she does her performance, she makes a few mistakes. She ends up, I think, in second place by the end of that. And it was a decent performance. But what made me upset is while I'm watching this lady skate, I'm watching the crowd, because the crowd for the Japanese lady was ready. Her teammates cheered her from the sidelines when she almost slipped up. So I'm watching the people from the United States, and I'm seeing a couple of United States flags. I'm hearing a couple people, with their patriotism and all that. But in the middle of all that, I saw a giant pride flag in the middle of all those American flags. And I am never ashamed to be an American, but in that moment, I did feel ashamed of my country. Because while all these other nations bring their flags to represent their country and the pride they have for their nation and their people, when the Americans come to represent themselves, they bring a pride flag.
God, you're gay.
I found out that it's because this Amber lady is a lesbian skater. But those people, the people raising that flag, and obviously the skater herself, took more pride in their sexual identity community than being American, and said as much to the press and showed as much on national television by raising that flag. And that was truly shameful to me. On top of that, when the male skating came up, we had our American, and he has a self-proclaimed quad god. He's a super diva. He does his performance, falls on the ice, but does some things that are incredible and nobody else can do. So he still gets a lot of points and gets top spot, 200 points, which is a lot more than like anybody else. After seeing that he got first place by like 50 points or so, his reaction was stone-faced. He sat there for like 30 seconds, just kind of, okay. And then he looks to his coach and goes, not bad. Not bad. And this is coming off the heels of him basically saying he didn't give it his all in his team event because he wants to make sure that he looks good in the solo event, which I get that there's strategy and you want to be able to lean on your teammates and be able to perform well in your own individual event. But that combined with all of the previous comments from the other athletes about basically just wanting to represent themselves on the world stage and completely diss their country and their teammates. And what made it sad was before the American even came up, there was an Italian skater. He was skating in his own country and he skated his heart out. He gave an incredible performance, and the whole time the American gay skater commentator was talking about how he didn't have the chops to compete in an individual event, but basically they threw him on the team because maybe they'll get some extra points. It was shameful. It was shameful. And then he gets done with his performance and he collapses on the ice just bawling. He's performing at the Olympics in front of his whole country at home. And he had gained enough points to get first place at that time. And I think Italy actually ended up finishing in third. But he was just proud to have performed for his nation there at that moment. And all the American commentator could say is that guy didn't have the chops to be an individualist. It was ugly. It was ugly. And then after the American skater came the male Japanese skater. And he performed his routine flawlessly, did incredible tricks, and didn't slip, fall, trip, or anything like that. He did his best, and he wasn't able to do as many moves as the American, but he placed only 5 points below him. When he saw his final score, his team was proud for him, and for him, it just felt like a failure. From the looks in his eyes, it looked like he felt he was that close to making gold for his country and his team, and he slipped on it. But then when the American gets 200 points after an incredible performance and doing things that no one else can do, said, not bad, and still walked home with the gold, I almost wanted to just tell him to keep the gold. Like, I nearly found myself rooting for a Japanese man over my own Americans. That is how shameful Team USA was. And I'm an American through and through, okay? I want to support my nation, and I want to root for them regardless, and I will. But when they do that kind of thing, when they let us, the Americans, down, I don't even want to watch them. I don't want to support the athletes. I don't want to give them the stage that they claim to have. And that was just the Olympics. Of course, we have to talk about the Super Bowl. Fortunately, this one ends in a little bit better light, so stay with me. Now, this year's Super Bowl game really didn't have much leading up to it or going for it or really during it. If you watched it, you know that there really wasn't much of a game going on. But the true world scene came from the halftime show and the other halftime show. Because if you followed this at all, you'll know Hispanic rapper Bad Bunny hosted this year's halftime show. A man who famously hates America and its government, and who previously said he would do no shows in America until flashed his pretty coin and said, "You want to do the Super Bowl?" And he's like, I'll do that. Why we had to pay this man to do our most American show of all time, I have no idea. Personal take, it looked kind of cool, but everything else was complete trash. He performed the entire show in Spanish solely. The only English words was at some point in the middle when Lady Gaga came in and she did like half a song in English. Also, there was a wedding happening right then and there, which that was a weird thing. And I get some people are the way some people are, and they want their wedding to have a big memorable moment, right? Being married at the Super Bowl might be like really cool for them, but the whole process of them having their ceremony, cutting the cake, and their first dance happened in like a minute and a half. It's supposed to be the most special day of your life, and you finish it in a minute and a half in the midst of celebrities who are trying to make political statements in front of the biggest world stage. I mean, it sounds awful to me, but I guess they can do what they can do. But anyways, back to Bad Bunny and his bad performance. Does the whole thing in Spanish, which I didn't understand, and apparently most Spanish speakers didn't even understand because he sucks at speaking and rapping, I guess. And the whole performance and the whole stage is just made to be like he's in Puerto Rico. And the power lines go out, and he performs around some grandpas playing dominoes and a casita and a bodega and a bunch of half-dressed Latina women shaking their everythings around. Not to mention the two gay dudes grinding on a truck. Oh gosh, that memory. I'm not gonna play that clip, but that hurt. That hurt physically. But then to top it all off, he finishes his show by handing this kid a Grammy Award. And this kid is supposed to represent Liam Ramos, who, if you don't know, is a kid that was supposedly detained by ICE. And the left has made this whole big story about it because they arrested a kid. But what they don't know, and what many of you may not know, is the reason you even have this image of an ICE officer detaining this kid is because his parents abandoned him, his father's in jail, and his mother refuses to claim him. So the ICE agents were the only ones there that even remotely cared about his well-being. But everyone else has turned him into a political statement because of a picture of an ICE agent taking care of this kid. So that happened. And then after all that, he ends it finally with "God bless America." The only 3 English words he says, but he doesn't stop there. He goes, "Se Argentina, el Ecuador, el Salvador," and blah, blah, blah. And he lists every country in the Western Hemisphere. No joke, everyone. In a sense, saying, we don't really bless America. We are all America. And in doing so, performed what could have been classified under one of the worst halftime shows of all time. I was fortunate enough not to have to watch that on the actual day, but unfortunate enough to have to go back and watch it for the sake of this episode. But what I did watch on the day of was Turning Point USA's All-American halftime show. Now, the fact that they were able to do this at all is truly an incredible feat. To have an alternate version of one of the most watched shows in America is an insane task that I'm amazed that they took on. But I'm even more amazed by the fact that they delivered. The opening of their halftime show had to be the single most American sound I have ever heard. Just peak. And they go on to have performances by several American artists performing good old country music, some rock, some other stuff in there too. So they didn't just have the crazy show, they also had some classic stuff. But another cool feature in this, all of their performers, even the lady, was dressed modest and well. Not like they look good, but they look good. But probably the most impactful part was at the end, they had Kid Rock come on and play, and he enters in this big show. He jumps through the stage and there's pyro, and he performs this song and he's jamming out and he's dancing around and doing all these crazy things. He does his performance, he goes backstage, and then they have these classical artists perform, and it's beautiful and it's well done. And then that ends. Here he comes again, Kid Rock, only he's introduced by his Christian name, and he plays this song Till You Can't. And it's an incredible song, by the way. But when he gets to his final verse, he pauses and says, I was thinking about this song, and something or someone told me, meaning God, that there needs to be another verse written for this song. And the verse he writes preaches Jesus. And it hits you in the heart, because the point of this song is to take the chance until you can't. Because eventually you're going to run out of time and you're going to die. So when he preaches Jesus in the midst of this song, he says, hey, take Jesus by the hand before you can't, before you die. And so not only is it a true American show, but it becomes a Christian altar call in the middle of apparently like 6.5 people watching on YouTube alone. And I've learned just recently that it's now up to 26 million views. Now you may be asking me, Gavin, why is this halftime show important? What did the Olympics or the Super Bowl or the halftime show have anything to do with God at all? Well, in and of themselves, not a whole lot. But what TPUSA did provided an opportunity to bring godliness and patriotism back to America in a way that nobody expected. And it worked beautifully. And it worked because America is primed and ready for a change. Its people are truly lost and they're searching for meaning. And we need to be there to show them the right way, to point them to Jesus and say, you need to reach out before it's too late. We need to train our children up in the way that they should go so they won't depart from it. The ways of Jesus and the American way. To treat others like they're supposed to be treated. To have faith, family, and country in that order. To take pride in your relationship with God. To form strong bonds with your family. And to take pride in the country that you're in. And with this year being the 250th anniversary of One Nation Under God, we better get that right now. Because we are in a season where there could be a harvest, or there could be a huge harvest lost. The Bible says the harvest is abundant, but the laborers are very few. So if we're going to bring this harvest in, we'd better get to work, because it may just be the turning point that we need to see God bless America once more.